Quorum is established. The committee is in session. A couple of housekeeping rules for folks today. When you are called forward, the senator and the nominee will come forward. You'll stand right behind the podium. Harrison will take a picture of you. You'll sit down, present, and then when you're done, the senator will go over to Mark over there, the bearded guy, and sign a document. We'll start out today with Chris Howard, a Republican as a member of the State Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors. Senator Hoskins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, State Senator Denny Hoskins, representing the 21st Senatorial District and one of my new counties, Cooper County, formerly of Senator Rowden's district. So Chris Howard is a Republican, and nominating him for a member of the State Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors. Chris has been in the funeral industry for more than 18 years as a funeral director and embalmer. For 14 years, he ran Davis Funeral Chapel, and in April 2017, he was able to fulfill a dream and purchase the Davis Funeral and renamed it Howard Funeral Home. He has a lot of working knowledge on the laws and regulations of the state of Missouri pertaining to funeral homes, and believes that rules are in place for a purpose. And with that, I'm sure he would be glad to answer any questions.
Awesome, Chris. Good to see you. Good to have you here. Any questions for this nominee, Senator Moon?
Good morning, Mr. Howard.
Good morning, sir.
When I was in high school, I had a friend whose family was in the business that you're in, and I was always curious. I never asked him this, but I'd like to ask you, what drew you to this profession?
When I was in all the way through kindergarten, all the way through high school, I had a friend that his grandpa had the funeral home in New Franklin. That's where I grew up. And we'd play in the funeral home and everything, and I just grew an interest to it, and finally decided to go to mortuary school and fulfill a dream to help families, and that's the last thing you can do for anybody at that time. So.
Now, this friend of mine has a class project years ago, and this is back in the early 70s, I guess. Mm-hmm. He took a G.I. Joe doll and put the embalming fluid, kind of like the embalming fluid, I guess, and made a video of it. Did you ever do that?
No, but my funeral director that I have at the funeral home now, she knew this in high school, what she wanted to do, so in their senior year they have to show something that they will do in their in their job, and so she got one of the CPR dummies from the ambulance base, and she actually dressed one and everything with clothes and tied them and cut them and everything.
That's interesting. So. Well, thank you for your answers.
You're welcome.
Wish you well. Thank you.
Further questions for Mr. Howard? Seeing none. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Brad.
Next up, we will hear from Jerald Andrews, a Democrat as a member of the State Fair Commission. Senator Crawford.
We have a few family members. It might be a record, I'm not sure. He has a lot of great support. It's a good thing you don't have like 50 people here this morning. Put the little ones in front. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Sandy Crawford, District 28. It's my pleasure this morning to present to you Mr. Jerald Andrews from Bolivar for the State Fair Commission. Mr. Andrews has a lot of great experience that he can bring to the State Fair. Probably most notably, since 1995, he served as CEO and Executive Director of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. That position and others that he's held in life has gained him a lot of experience. He has great management skills, marketing, strategic planning, and budgeting. And I think those skills will be a great asset to the Missouri State Fair. It's my pleasure to sponsor him this morning.
Mr. Andrews, do you have any kids?
I don't know who those people were. I've just been collecting.
You can find a lot of weird people on the streets of Jefferson City, I'm just saying, yeah.
My wife and I have 4 daughters. They were born 5 years and 3 months apart, so that's
Awesome.
why they're so close. And we have 9 grandchildren, and yes, they're all here.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. Glad to have you with us. Further questions for Mr. Andrews? Senator.
Mr. Andrews, I first became acquainted with you. I believe it was when you attended or spoke at the Springfield Southeast Rotary Club years ago.
Yes.
And I believe you brought in Kirk Elmquist.
Yes.
Just after you had started the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, which is, by the way, a fantastic venue, and I encourage all who are down in the Springfield, Rogersville area to stop by and see that sometime. You have an impressive resume as well, and this is probably the largest gathering I've seen for a nominee in my time here. A lot of successful endeavors that you've shown on your resume, and do you have any ideas just off the top of your head for the State Fair to bring it to something of even a higher caliber than it already is?
Well, you know, it's a great event, obviously, and has been for a century, I guess. I'm very excited about the opportunity to serve there. I grew up on a dairy farm west of Oliver, and once farming's in your blood, it's always in your blood. So this is going to give me an opportunity to kind of return to my agricultural roots. I've attended one meeting with the commission thus far and found out just how little I do know about the State Fair. But it's really an exciting time, I think, to be a part of the organization with the expansion of not only the physical plant, but the potential expansion of buildings and remodeling of facilities and so forth. And it's one of our trademark events for tourism in the state, and I'm excited about being a part of that.
Well, I'm certainly happy that you accepted the nomination to be on the state board. And I always thought you were from Springfield, Greene County.
Yeah.
And now to know that you're from Senator Crawford's area, you have some fantastic folks there, Senator Crawford. So, and thank you, Mr. Andrews, for being willing to take on this endeavor.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. Thank you for being here again. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Next up, we will hear from Tom Oelrichs, a Republican as a member of the State Milk Board, also Senator Crawford.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Sandy Crawford, District 28. And I love having all this great family support with my people that I'm sponsoring today. It makes it a special day for them, I'm sure. So it's my pleasure this morning to also present Mr. Tom Oelrichs from Mora, Missouri. That's Pettis County, for the State Milk Board. You know, I know you all get the resumes and things like that. The thing that struck me about Mr. Oelrichs' resume were his qualifications that he put. Common sense, being a good listener, and things such as that. And that really struck me as somebody that would be a great person to serve on a board. Mr. Oelrichs graduated in 1980 and immediately became a partner on his family dairy farm. So he's been in the business for many, many years. In addition, he's also paid back to his community. He served on many ag boards and also community projects. I think I read he was a volunteer fireman for the volunteer fire department. And so I think he'll make a great addition to this state milk board. Certainly a lot of experience, many years of experience in the dairy business. My pleasure to sponsor him this morning.
Thank you, Senator. Questions for this witness, for this nominee? Senator.
Mr. Oelrichs, as I was looking through your information last night, I honestly didn't know what the State Milk Board did. And I was thinking that it was going to be promoting dairying because, you know, we've taken a hit in Missouri just like other parts of the country. Even though that's not a primary component of your position there, is that something that you would advocate for?
Oh, definitely. I serve on the Midwest Dairy Promotion Advocacy Board, and that is its primary purpose, is to advocate for dairy, to educate consumers on the importance of dairy. And then I also am part of Missouri Dairy, which is the state trade organization that does some advocacy work. So they involve both ways.
I think it was probably 8 years ago we had a 3-city tour for an ag committee in the House that I participated on, and I was interested to hear some of the concerns that dairymen and other farmers had. And so I'd be interested and curious to visit with you sometime if you had ideas that how the state, without usurping authority, could help dairy operators and allow them to be more successful, maybe with deregulation or whatever it might be. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say.
I'd love to have that
Great.
conversation.
Thank you very much.
Further questions for this nominee? Does it make sense that someone who's nominated the state milk board with kids would take their kid to Central Dairy after today?
I think that's a prerequisite.
I don't want to put you in a box, but you got cute kids. They feel like they need Central Dairy. So.
Actually, those are my grandkids.
Okay, well, perfect.
But I appreciate that.
Yeah. We'll take them to Central Dairy anyway. How about that?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Next up, we will hear from Gilbert Adkins, independent as a member of the Missouri Community Service Commission. Senator Brown.
The room's clearing out now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Justin Brown representing the 16th Senatorial District. I am proud to nominate and sponsor Gilbert Adkins for the independent, or he's an independent, as a member of the Missouri Community Service Commission. Gilbert's a lifelong resident of Laclede County, which is new to my district. Got to know him a little bit over the campaign trail. Very qualified for this position, has numerous community service awards and recognitions, and I think will be a good asset to this board. And with that, we will entertain any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Thanks for being here today. Questions for this nominee? Senator Moon.
Good morning, Mr. Adkins.
Good morning.
As I was looking through the responsibilities of the Missouri Community Service Commission, I noticed that AmeriCorps was one of the programs that was overseen. I recall during the Joplin tornado, AmeriCorps had a large presence there, and I wonder, are they strictly volunteer, or are there some payments made to certain individuals in the group?
Senator, I'm not totally on top of that yet,
Okay,
but my
good.
understanding is that it's both.
Gotcha.
They have some
Okay.
paid positions and a lot of volunteers that they try to recruit.
Yeah. If you're willing and able, sometime we could connect on that.
Sure.
Once you've gotten your feet settled there. I'd like to talk to you about some of the circumstances that I witnessed and heard about the Joplin tornado specifically, and just see what your take is on what possibilities there might be to steer it in a different way, perhaps. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
I actually went down with a church group and worked 3 days at that Joplin
That was
tornado.
something, wasn't
was
it?
on the scene
yeah,
2 days after.
right.
It's quite a, never forget it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for participating. They had folks from all over the country coming in,
Yep, you're
so
right.
that was great.
Okay,
Well, thank you for being willing
you.
to serve, and look forward to talking to you in the future.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Be in touch.
Next up, we will hear from Theresa Michelle Odle as a member of the Amber Alert System Oversight Committee. Senator Gannon. There we go.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee, Senator Elaine Gannon from District 3. Thank you for the opportunity to present Chelley Odle, who is seeking appointment to the Amber Alert System Oversight Committee.
Glad to have you with us today. Questions for this nominee?
I have one here.
Senator Wrestling.
I just want to make sure that you guys are not related.
We're not, but thank you for the compliment.
Do you have the same hairstyle as because
And glasses and blacks, yeah.
Senator Moon.
Good morning, Ms. Odle. Just 2 days ago, I believe it was, I received an Amber Alert on my phone and wondered if you had any idea how many alerts are issued annually, because I don't see them often. I'm not sure if I receive them all the time, but any ideas?
Well, I just read that actually. It seems that in the state of Missouri, I believe it has been 28, give or take. I may be not quite exactly in the state of Missouri, but throughout the country, it's been around 300 or so throughout the country.
Yeah. And just for thought, perhaps, on this last alert, it didn't really give a lot of detail, and I'm not sure what we should have been looking for. So that kind of raised a flag in my mind that maybe some more detail if they could have given it. So anyway, I'm not sure exactly what all goes into the information they share, but anyway, just food for thought.
I know which one you're talking about because I received that one as well. It
Yes.
seemed like they had a description of the vehicle, a little bit about the actual abduction, but I think it was pretty quick. They turned it around and
Yes.
had actually apprehended
Oh,
the
good.
person that had
Okay.
taken the child, and the child was safe.
That may have
So,
been what I missed. Good.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Further questions for this nominee? Seeing none. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Next up, we will hear from Brad Belk as a member of the Missouri Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. Senator Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jill Carter from representing District 32. And to my right is Brad Belk. He is being nominated to be appointed to the Missouri Advisory Council for Historic Preservation. He has a long resume, one of which I'm sure that you have. It would take us quite a while to go through his resume. He has been appointed to the Southwest Missouri museum director for 34 years. He was hired by the Missouri Southern State University as a community historian. And if you've been to my office and seen the beautiful pictures on the walls representing our community, Brad is the one who put those together for me. So I'm really super excited simply because of that connection with him. He has been somebody who has made it a point in his life, dedicated his life to making sure that the history of Southwest Missouri has been preserved, and has done a great job communicating the beautiful history of our community to our community. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for being here today. Questions for Mr. Belk? Senator Moon. Okay, perfect.
I didn't see your information in here, but I thought I read something about it. Maybe I pulled it out and set it aside, but I wonder, in whatever time we have condensed, what is your favorite history story of the area?
Well, that's impossible. Our history is so valuable. Sometimes it's all of how it's presented, as well as what is being said, and our foundation is on our past, and there are so many thoughts that come through my mind. The idea of serving for the state is incredibly, I'm honored because for the last 36 years I've been serving as a public historian or museum director for the Southwest Missouri, and I welcome the opportunity to serve on a higher plane, working for the state. I think our buildings are the story of our history, and we can't preserve everyone, but there are so many buildings that need to be preserved because of the stories that they contain. So our structures, I had a professor, Osmond Overby, who was a brilliant man at the University of Missouri, and he since has passed away, but I was one of his students, and he would be just thrilled because he loved to see his students excel in a position like this. I went to the University of Missouri for my undergraduate degree, and I went in not really very concerned about studying, and he turned my life around when they turned the lights off, and I started looking at buildings that I never really recognized or even cared about. And so that's the idea of presenting that torch to someone else to gain that appreciation, like we all should with our structures.
Senator Esslinger.
This isn't really a question, but just I want to not miss the opportunity. I have found out in Howe County that there is a treasure trove of pencil drawings that are very well done and narratives from the people, the Hill people, or the people who live in that county from the 50s, 40s, and 50s. And I would really like to connect with you to make sure that those things are preserved and somehow captured. So thank you.
Well, yes, I look forward to that opportunity.
Yeah.
That is just as important. Anything we can preserve historically.
Right, and these are the actual comments and narratives from the people that these pencil drawings are made of. And so they talk about the culture and the life of and what it was like to live at that time.
Those documents could also be a fragile nature of some sort, so therefore, the idea of protecting those.
There's about 40 to 52 or so of those, and they were just found. So anyway, I just want to make.
Are they handwritten?
Hand printed. They're hand drawing. They're pencil drawings of the people in the house, where they live, where they just a portrait kind of a pencil, charcoal and pencil, and then they're audio recordings. The recordings of their voice and then what the story that they have to tell. That goes with the picture. So anyway, I don't want that to get away. So,
okay.
Thank you.
We won't let it.
Further questions? Seeing none. Thanks for being here today. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Next up, we will hear from Lyle Querry, a Democrat, as a member of the Jackson County Board of Election Commissioners, Senator Rizzo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, the committee. For the record, Senator John Rizzo, representing the 11th Senatorial District, and it is my honor and pleasure to nominate and present Lyle K. Querry to the member of the Jackson County Board of Election Commissioners, which is a bit odd because I've known Keith since I was a kid, and I just found out his first name is really Lyle about 2 weeks ago. And but Keith has been, and his late wife Sandy have been mainstays in eastern Jackson County for decades, between working in the United Way, serving in the United States Army. From there went into being an electrician and has been working with the IBEW 53 for a long time, and has just been active in the independence community for literally decades. And very good people that if you ever needed someone to show you the ropes, if you had a good heart and a good compass, he or Sandy would be there for you to show you around and help you with the landscape of politics, which he knows as well as I do, in eastern Jackson County can get a little dicey. And he's a good man, and it is my honor and pleasure to nominate him, and I know he wants to get active in the community again, so it'll be a good experience for him, and he will do a great job at it.
Awesome. Thank you, Senator. Mr. Querry, good to have you here today. Questions for this nominee? Senator Moon.
Good morning, Mr. Querry.
Good morning.
That was a nice accolades by the senator.
I'm going through my second Senator Rizzo.
Are you?
I will clarify that there's only one Senator Rizzo. There was a former state representative Rizzo.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, as you see it, What do you believe is the most important concern as it relates to elections?
I think it's the controversy between the parties now. It's going to take a long time for that to dissipate. I don't really know the answer to that, but hopefully maybe when this generation starts to fade out and the younger one comes on, maybe we can get back to something more normal. You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Further questions? Seeing none. Again, thank you for being here today. Thanks for your willingness to serve. Next up, we will hear from Scott Meierhoffer, the Republican as a member of the State Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors, Senator Luetkemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Tony Luetkemeyer, representing the 34th Senatorial District, Platte and Buchanan counties, and it is my honor today to present to the committee a good friend of mine, Scott Meierhoffer, who the governor appointed to the Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors. Scott has served as the CEO of Meierhoffer Funeral Home in St. Joseph since 1994. The Meierhoffer Funeral Home is a legacy business in the St. Joseph community, now in its 125th year and 5th generation in the Meierhoffer family running it. The funeral home serves over 2,000 families a year through their funeral services, as well as working with families in hospice care. Scott has in-depth knowledge and understanding of the laws and regulations related to funeral homes, and it will make him a great asset to the board. And if I'm not mistaken, you previously served on the board. And so, anyway, I would love for the committee to support his nomination, and with that, be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Good to have you here today. Questions for this nominee? Senator.
Good morning, Mr. Meierhoffer.
Good morning.
I knew they had pet cemeteries, and of course we have human cemeteries too, but I never really put this together where you're doing both, it looks like. And what is the difference? I know there's an anatomical difference, but what is procedurally different, just on the surface level, of caring for pets as opposed to humans, and the services you provide and things like that?
Sure. So, interestingly enough, we started a section within our cemetery just for pets. Actually, regulation is not much when it comes to pets, but we treat the pets in the burying process as well as cremation process no different than humans.
As I asked another individual before you, what drew you to this type of work?
Well, being a fifth generation in the business is pretty tough to not. But honestly, it's more about it moors our family than even funeral service. And then the sixth generation back here.
Senator Laughlin.
So I've heard a lot about you. So it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And looking over your resume, so you have an in-depth understanding of the pre-need insurance contracts?
Correct.
And you have an in-depth understanding of the auditing process of that setup?
Correct.
I think that will be handy.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you all.
And finally, today we will hear from Margaret Boltus as a member of the Missouri State Board of Nursing. Senator Brown. Mike.
Thank you. For the record, I am Ben Brown, Senator for District 26. It's my pleasure to introduce Margaret Bultis for Missouri State Board of Nursing. She has an extensive resume, including practicing as a nurse for 30 years in a broad variety of settings. She's been a nurse educator at St. Louis University. She's also worked with the board in the past as an adjunct educational reviewer, and she's served as chair of the Minimum Standards Review. With that, she'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for being here today. Any questions for this nominee? Senator Laughlin.
So I have a lot of friends who are nurse practitioners, and we get in a lot of, back and forth here about their scope of practice. What do you think about that? Or would you rather not say?
Well, no, I am a nurse practitioner. I actually do not practice as one. But fortunately, my role on the board will be a regulatory one. So the questions you have probably about full practice authority and those types of things, those will be for the legislature to primarily decide. My role on this board will be to enforce those.
You could be a politician. Probably better than me at it. One of the things that comes up sometimes in conversations is the fact that so much of the training is done now online instead of hands-on training. And
for nurse practitioners?
Yeah.
They're still required to do several hundreds of hours of hands-on care, plus they have to have a degree in nursing, of which they've usually practiced for several years as well. I can assure you that nurse practitioners are very qualified to do their job.
I'm all for nurse practitioners. I mean, I go to one, so
right.
I think
no, they have a lot of hours of hands-on in the clinic setting. The online didactic is the theory portion, but every school of nursing has requirements, and they're all through their certification agencies as well. So there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of direct patient care that they do participate in.
So one of the things we really struggle with is having enough nurses, and
that is true.
Sometimes I hear that, well, schools will only take so many, or we can, like there's some kind of a predetermined number that maybe could be expanded. Is that right?
Well, the challenge with schools of nursing is that to do those direct clinical placements, because even basic nursing programs, ADN, RN, BSN, RN, those programs, those also have hands-on hours in the clinic setting, of which all have to be supervised, and there's standards of which you have to have the number of, there's a limited number of students per faculty member. So part of that is faculty shortage as well. And actually the state board has done a lot in promoting and providing additional funds for additional faculty members. And this Missouri State Board of Nursing has done a lot in the way of making headway in that area.
So if you have ideas about how we could help, we'd be glad to hear those, because, we really haven't.
Well, I think, more funding for that. It's really hard when you have to go back and get a master's or a PhD, and you have to pay for those things in order to get nurse faculty, but also bridging and making sure there's enough clinical placements in hospitals. Hospitals can only take so many students as well, because they have real patients there, and there's nurse shortages, and those nursing students have to work with nurses as well. So it's kind of a compounded problem as far as what can help. I do think, a lot of times it does come down to pay and support for further education, and also pay and working conditions for nurses.
Well, and in closing, Senator Esslinger and I think that you look very healthy.
Oh, thank you.
And we've decided that's because you're not driving to meetings all the time and eating cheese sticks like we do.
Well, actually, I have to tell you that I wasn't very healthy about a year ago, and I decided to do some things different, so I really appreciate that, because I've actually lost a lot of weight and could not find an outfit to wear today.
Oh, so, no, now that negativity, we don't need that in our lives. We're not willing to do that. But thank you.
Senator Esslinger.
We're working on some legislation this year that has to do with nurse practitioners licensing.
Yes.
Can you speak to the licensing and whether it's a value or not a value to the field?
For licensing of
APRN
nurse practitioners,
of
the
nurse
value
yeah.
of that? Well, I think, again, licensing becomes a regulatory type of thing, and so when you do have some licensing criteria, then that does help in, improve the quality of what you're getting.
Okay.
Not-
I was just curious. I know that right now, of course, that you receive your endorsement or whatever it is that defines you
Document of
as
recognition, yeah.
recognition, and then the advocates within your profession strive for a licensure. And
Yeah.
so that is something that we're working on now, but
also-
I'm just kind of curious your opinion on that.
Yeah, you also need to be certified by accrediting bodies.
Sure.
So not only do you have to have the document of recognition, but you also have certification from an accrediting body.
Right.
So.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you for being here today.
That was a lot of questions.
Yeah,
for
and I
the
know
nurse.
you got hit hard at the end. I don't know why that is,
Right.
but
Everybody loves nurses.
we do. We do love
I'm
nurses.
just- I'm just here to support quality patient care, so,
Well, thank you for your willingness to serve.
thank you.
I would make a motion that we move into executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. We are in executive session. We do have a list of reappointments. As long as there are no issues spoken on those, I would make a motion that we roll the slate of appointments and reappointments into one slate for consideration on the Senate floor. Moved and seconded. Discussion on that motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. As opposed to say no. We are now entertaining a motion, or I will make a motion that we vote that slate do pass to the Senate floor. Moved and seconded. Discussion on that motion. Chris, call the roll. You have voted that slate do pass. I make a motion to move out of executive session and adjourn. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. We are adjourned.